Okay, so for the spoiler review, I'm just going to be looking through this book while talking about some of the aspects of It Chapter 2 movie. I actually like this one better than the first chapter. The first chapter is great though. Just this one was, I really liked it because it showed the characters a lot. And I think they did a really good job with that. I did end up reading the It book, only to try to get a little bit of information on what could happen in the second chapter while waiting for it to come out. I had already watched the first chapter, so chapter 1 of It, and at that time they were still making It chapter 2, so I decided to read the actual It book. I didn't read it entirely, unfortunately, but you know, was able to look up on the internet what happens in it. I did read quite a bit of it. I never quite finished it, but it is like a 1,000-page book, so. Anyway, this video will contain It Chapter 2 spoilers, so if you don't want anything spoiled, I advise you guys wait until you see the movie to listen to this review. Also, this book I am looking through will contain spoilers from the It Chapter 2 movie, so you guys are forewarned about that. So ultimately, I was surprised that a lot of the actors, adult actors for The Losers, actually did a pretty good job mimicking the children that, you know, they had to play. They did a pretty good job. I was most impressed with Beverly just because one of the reasons is Beverly looks, you know, Jessica Chastain, she looks a lot like the younger actress. So they have similar features. I think they behave similarly. And I think one of the actors I would say was weakest on looking the most like the child, or making me feel like they were most believably the child as they grew up, was Bill, because Bill just had a different look once he was older. Like, I feel like the adult actor had like different kind of hair, so it made it seem like he was a different person, and a lot of his facial features were different. So here is some of the pictures from the funhouse scene of It Chapter 2, which this is pretty cool. I really like this portion of the movie because there is a scene in it where there is a mirror maze, and this is the adult actor for Bill right here, and he knew this kid was going to end up getting in trouble with Pennywise because this kid was saying that they heard voices in the drain, and he knew that the kid ended up going to the carnival because the kid told him that, and Bill ended up getting a bloody skateboard from Pennywise saying you won't be there for him either, reflecting on how he wasn't there for Georgie when Pennywise was able to get him. So Bill rushes to the carnival, ends up seeing the kid entering the funhouse, and has to go through this mirror maze in order to try and stop Pennywise, which it's a very cool scene. I think they did very good on that. And I guess that wasn't in the book at all. The director, created that entirely. It really goes good with the rest of the movie, so very good job. Nothing seems out of place for adding that new content. I actually like a lot of the new content that the director added in this movie, such as the new content that they decided to do with the Ritual of Chud, which is, they made a whole backstory where Mike ends up staying in Derry and working as a librarian, and he pretty much researched with these Indians when Pennywise first came, and so these Indians did a ritual to try and vanquish Pennywise years ago, and the Loser Club ended up trying to do that near the end of the movie, and it's extremely funny because they end up trying to put Pennywise in this leather like compartment, which is like a box. It's like a ritual box to seal an evil demon in, and it ends up, absorbing the deadlights into the box, which is like Pennywise's, form. But the box doesn't completely close, and a balloon pops out of it, and then pretty much Pennywise goes on to mock them about how they thought that was going to work. And that was pretty funny because it makes sense. They were not going to be able to put Pennywise in a box. So that was quite funny, and I liked that laugh. Or some other scenes that I liked in this It chapter. The other thing is, this movie is, I know some people always complain that, it's not that scary, some of the movies, or the jump scares can look, cheap, which honestly I think a lot of people who complain about that just, don't like CG, or think whenever CG is implemented that it looks chintzy. And there are some bad CG jobs in some films, but none of these CG jobs were bad. Most of them were pretty good. So, and some of them, they look very real. So, they were believable as monsters, because monsters look different than what a real being would look like. The other thing is, a lot of people said that It Chapter 2 wasn't funny enough. I'm wondering if some critics said that just so you would go to the movie and expect not to get any feelings of, being scared or anything. This movie, literally, on the opening credits of when it showed Warner Brothers, it was, like, scary. I don't know how they pulled that off, but that was cool. You felt like, okay, this is gonna be scary. The opening credits of Warner Brothers. They managed to make that scary. The other thing I like about a lot of these It movies, there's only 2, but in these It movies, I love the sound effects. The sound effects really help implement different emotions and tones in this film. I like a lot how they have a lot of these booming or like electronic, semi-organic sounding noises, and they manage to be scary, and which of course they're scary. They're not something we've ever heard before, but they're really cool in nature, and they sound like they're from another world, and they sound like they could be from an alien. An example of that would be like Pennywise in the first It Chapter movie, when he is doing his deadlights, and they have that like dur noise, and it's really cool, but it's really like it vibrates a lot, so it gives a harder emphasis on the amount of this crazy thing that's going on when Pennywise is using his deadlights. So that is really cool. I guess here are some of the historic pictures of when Pennywise was around. This is an example of like Pennywise as Bob Gray. A lot of these are just sketch art. So there were a lot of scenes of the Loser Club when they are younger, with some scare scenes. One of them that I thought was particularly funny, which, I mean, every time Pennywise appears in the movie, is pretty good. It's pretty enjoyable. Pennywise appears a lot as some of the monster forms, so when we get to see the clown, it's really nice. I think the opening of the movie was very good. It set very well with how the book was, having read the book. And I think it was a good start for the beginning of the It Chapter movie. The beginning of It Chapter 2 starts off with the carnival, and unfortunately a crime against a couple. Oh wow, that's Stan's head. But they did that really cool, and I liked how the guy who ends up falling into the water. He tries to get out of the water, and Pennywise is there to greet him. So instead of getting safety and getting pulled out of the water, he ends up reaching out for the safety of Danger, which is Pennywise. Which is pretty cool. And they did do a very good job on the gay couple, which unfortunately that is the person who was in the water, one of the Adrian Mellon. Unfortunately ended up getting beaten up and thrown off the bridge. Oh yeah, I also loved how they had all the balloons. Way more balloons in the movie. They're like filled everywhere. That looked really good. That was really cool. Here is the couple. Andrea Mellon's the one with the hat. And I think they played that character really well. Definitely remind me of the two characters I read in the book, so that was cool. What else happened in the movie? Obviously for Pennywise's final form, this is a big spoiler, guys, so if you've watched this video just being like, okay, the spoilers aren't that bad, maybe you don't want to hear about Pennywise's final form, maybe you want to listen to this video later, that is your decision. But they did end up doing a Pennywise spider, but it is different. So, they ended up going with a Pennywise spider, but Pennywise is half up here, and then the spider limbs are kind of like proportions of his costume. You can see this is his arm, but it looks like his costume. He's got spikes. He doesn't quite, obviously have this style. He looks more like Pennywise. This is an art sketch, but Pennywise's final form is a spider, giant spider in that fact. Giant clown spider. Which is cool because then it looks more like a shape-shifting, he looks more like a shape-shifting monster instead of just being a spider like in the miniseries. So I appreciated the fact that if they were going to go with spider, they made it somewhat cooler, and I like that they keep the deadlights associated with Pennywise because I think that's so cool, and that constantly reminds us that he is from another dimension, and then he has these other dimensional powers, so that's really cool. More pictures of his other form, sketches. They also included the Kiss Me Fat Boy scene in this, which was pretty funny. Pennywise ends up appearing to Ben. Ben's running away from him because they included a scene from the book. I think this is a scene from the book where Pennywise is disguised as Beverly, and Beverly's hair catches on fire. As to torment Ben with the whole poem, your hair is January embers. And then Ben ends up running to the locker, locking himself in there, and Pennywise is in the locker. It's hilarious. And Pennywise ends up yelling at him, "Kiss me, fat boy." It was hilarious. Hilarious scene, and I heard a lot of people at the end, once the movie ended, and everybody left the theater, some people were talking about that scene outside the theater, so it definitely sat with people well. I thought it was very funny. And the clown was coming at him, and it was like, oh no, you know what's gonna happen, he's so gonna kill you. So that was funny. What else? So I ended up liking this movie better than It Chapter 2. I think my reasons for liking this one better than Chapter 1. I think my reasons for liking this one better than Chapter 1 is because it's a longer movie. I like having all the content. I felt like we got a lot more flow in this movie, actually. Like, the first one was pretty slow paced, which was good because it was a slower paced film. It was dealing with the kids. It was more of the mystery of, what are they up against? What is Pennywise? And then in this film, they know what they're up against. Everything is scarier, and they know they're in danger like all the time. An example of that would be two of the characters, two of the adult losers. Do I remember exactly who it was? Well, I know one of them was Bill, and someone else go back to the hotel that they're staying at in Derry after they were both these losers, so Bill and one other person, I can't remember who it was, ended up remembering Pennywise. They ended up having an encounter with Pennywise where they get some of their memories back, or he tormented them, and then they, they're kind of shocked and freaked. They end up going back to the hotel, and as they're doing that, like, they're discussing, oh no, like, they see each other both freaked out, they were in different spots, and they experienced, their emotional trauma with Pennywise at a different place before meeting at the hotel. While they're talking, discussing what, happened, a bloody skateboard falls down the stairs. I loved this because it was like Pennywise would not stop the entire movie. He was totally on them the entire movie. They did not have a time to rest at all. It was really cool. So it was like they just got tormented. They got running back to the motel, and a bloody skateboard comes falling down the stairs, and it's like, you would be like, after just getting scared, you're like, no way, they're still after us. Oh wow. He just would not stop. It was constant. And it was true with the movie too. The scares were constant, the danger was constant. I think that's a good thing to say about the movie. The danger felt constant, and it was constantly there. Which is good because it felt like it was something they had to deal with or had to finish. Here's a director's sketch of Pennywise Deadlights. So that was really cool. Other thing I have to say about this movie is I like Pennywise's makeup a lot in this movie. Like, it seemed like his makeup was bolder. It seemed like the color red they used was darker, which implemented, things were more serious. And the lighting on him they used was very good because it showed off his golden eyes. And, like, pretty much the whole movie, his eyes were that, gold color because he was so hungry. So it made that really cool. I thought a lot of the shots were really gorgeous on Pennywise in the movie. I don't know what that scene is. I liked how they handled the Loser Club in this movie too. I think they did a good job with that. And I liked how they took the time to show how the losers all got together from all their separate lives. That made us really think, really reflect and feel that they all had different lives and they all had to come back to this problem that they had from their childhood. Just like we see Bill here at his desk as a writer. I think that was cool. I also liked how they changed with Eddie's character as an adult. Instead of him like running a limo service, he's running a risk analytics, or his job is risk analytics, and when he gets the phone call, he ends up crashing his car. It like drums up the drama of how bad the phone call is. So I think that was really cool. The other thing that was cool is when they're doing that ritual of Chud in the book with the box, and they're trying to put Pennywise in the box, Mike ends up revealing once it fails and Pennywise is taunting all the loser group that the Indians who originally tried to capture Pennywise using the box all died. So he thought, since they all believed that it would actually work, but all the loser club are like, Mike, what you're doing, you could have killed all of us. Did you just, So, almost like he was just drawing them to try this, if not kill them all. So that was also an interesting concept. I also liked how Pennywise taunted them for a while. He was kind of like hiding in between this. Hiding in between this. This is the chamber where the ritual of Chud happens. There's a picture of them like that. Pennywise was kind of lurking behind here, taunting them once it failed. So, I mean, in the movie, when they're doing the ritual, it definitely seems like, okay, I guess the ritual worked, and then, you know, the balloon comes out of the box and pops, and Pennywise is free and taunting them about how sticking him in a box never would have worked. I was surprised actually how much I didn't have a problem with Pennywise in his spider form, because when I watched the miniseries, which I only did so to see what else happened, just like how I read the book, I really disliked the spider form, because obviously they just made it a spider. It literally looked like a weird looking spider in the miniseries. So I was very happy and surprised to be happy with this Pennywise spider, because Pennywise acted more like himself. It definitely reminded me more of Pennywise, just like how he had these spider legs in It Chapter 1 in the final duel. So that was pretty good. It just seemed like an extension of that form. What else can we talk about? I like the carnival theme. I also liked how they had, which I don't know if this scene is in the book either, it kind of reminded me of maybe a more original scene because it was so creative. There was this kid named Vicky. She's at a sports stadium, and she ends up getting lured to Pennywise into the stadium. I thought that scene was really cool. And Pennywise ends up tricking her instead of actually scaring her. So, and the other thing that was cool about that scene is Pennywise was talking to the girl, and he was like, I will blow away, she had this birthmark, and she was like, I'll blow away this birthmark, you know, that way you don't look weird. And the girl ended up kind of making understanding with him because he had weird, you know, clown face paint, just like how she had a weird birthmark. So he made that agreement, but he waited, and he counted 1, and he stayed on the count of 3, 1, 2, and he paused for a very long time. And as soon as the crowd roared on the sports stadium, he attacked her. So it seemed like very good timing, and I loved how loud the noise was. It was very cool. Now, I don't know if that some people would consider that to be cliche, where a gunshot would go off when a loud crowd cheers, but in this moment it did not seem like that at all. I honestly thought Pennywise wasn't going to do anything, and I couldn't even predict what he was doing at this time when he did not count to 3. So it was cool. And even the character Vicky said, oh, you're supposed to say 3. That's how long it was he was sitting there. So it was a very unexpected moment, so that was cool. What else? Oh yeah, Pennywise's deadlights. So we get to see Pennywise's deadlights again in this movie. I'm pretty sure we only saw them when he was in Pennywise spider form in the end. And it's after, I think it's after, can't remember if it's after. But anyway, he ends up, it's because Richie throws a rock. I think it's because Richie throws a rock. I don't know. I'm having a problem remembering that. But anyway, Pennywise ends up putting Richie into the deadlights after he does something to provoke him to do so. And when he does that, we end up seeing that Pennywise's deadlights aren't actually in his mouth, or at least they don't appear to be in this scene. They actually appear to go through the back of his head and be up in like this cabin wall. So that was pretty weird. Am I in favor of that design? I actually would rather have the deadlights just be like in his mouth. Pennywise's deadlights actually exist outside of him because the form he takes is not him. It seems, since we actually get to see the deadlights and they are not in Pennywise, they're floating above in the cavern. So I do like seeing the deadlights better in his mouth than like coming through the back of his head in the ceiling of a cavern. So I wasn't a super fan of that idea, but it didn't really ruin anything. I don't know if I can see. Is there a picture of that in this book. Oh no, let's see, is there a picture of that book? Oh yeah, so this is the picture of Pennywise talking to Vicky under the stadium. This is the skateboard I was talking about that floats down the stairs. Won't be there for him either. Oh yeah, this was also the kid that Bill was talking to, and the kid that Bill tries to save in the funhouse. I actually should have talked about that scene a little bit more in depth, because it was cool on a few notes. So Bill tries to save this kid from Pennywise. Pennywise is there with his long funhouse tongue against the glass. And the glass is separating the clown from the kid and Bill from the kid. And then once Bill sees the clown there, the clown starts whacking his head on the glass, and the glass starts cracking. Bill obviously freaks out and tries to kick the glass repeatedly, like in a moment of freak panic, and Pennywise is just slowly, smashing his head against the glass, and on Pennywise's side the glass is cracking. Bill is making no progress, and Bill is just freaking out and trying to smash the glass. Pennywise obviously can smash the glass because he's a lot stronger than Bill. So, that kid ends up dying. I was surprised to see that, because I thought once a character would end up going and trying to save him, like in most movies, he'd be able to save him, especially it being a kid character. But no, that was pretty cool and surprising to have Pennywise actually be able to smash the glass and getting the kid instead of just writing a scene we would all expect. Alright, so here is kind of like the deadlights. So up here, above the clown, so there was like a hole in the back of his head. When he was doing this, we get to see in a large shot, and the deadlights are actually above in the cave cavern. That's what I was talking about. That's an example of the deadlights. I think that talked about quite a lot of the things that I thought were pretty good in It, Chapter 2. But overall, I felt like it told more of a story. The first one told a story, but the first one was telling more of the mystery of Pennywise. So, I like the mystery aspect of the first one. And I like the whole story of it, telling the story about the kids. But in this movie, it felt like it was more telling the story of Pennywise, because we know more about him. We get to see him scaring them so much more. And I like getting to see the different life of the losers as they're grown up, and getting to see how they would handle the clown now that they're aware of what he is. So now they're aware of the danger. It's not such a mystery. They know what kind of bad danger they would have to deal with. So, that was good. One last thing that was funny in the movie, it's near the end of the movie, Richie and, is it Richie? I'm pretty sure it's Richie and Eddie. They ended up finding this Pomeranian behind one of the doors, which they're like, there's no way, that's obviously not a real dog, it's gotta be fake. And they're staring at the dog, and the dog's just wagging his tail happily, and they're like, you're not a real dog. And then they're like, sit, and then the dog sits, and they're like, oh, maybe it's a real dog. And then, the dog conforms and attacks them. It was hilarious, because it was funny. And I like that he turned into a Pomeranian. That was a cool idea. Alright, so go ahead and tell me what were some of your favorite scenes in It Chapter 2. What was your favorite scene with Pennywise in this movie too? So favorite scene and favorite scene with Pennywise. Pennywise isn't always in all of these scenes. So, with Pennywise, I mean when he's in clown form, besides obviously his other scary forms. So go ahead and tell me what you thought of It Chapter 2. Did you have any favorite scenes? Any favorite Pennywise scenes? And did you like this movie better than the first? Or did you like the first better? Hope you guys enjoyed. And